What's going on, everybody? Doing some live chat tonight. Just wanted to come to you guys and just talk about The Mandalorian. I have not actually sat down and done a proper video about The Mandalorian yet, and one of the reasons for that is the panel. They really didn't show the trailer. There really wasn't a trailer specific. There was basically two things that were shown. There was a sizzle reel that was kind of just like a little bit of like here's a few little bits and pieces along with the director kind of talking about it, talking about the different directors, Dave Filoni, all these other stuff, and all the different directors that are going to be working on it, and just a whole bunch of stuff like that, and then they also showed some footage, and that was the one that really kind of. It wasn't a lot. I imagine it was probably a scene from the first episode because it looks in many ways to be something very, very early, preliminary, like, hey, we're just establishing this character, and so it gives you kind of just a scene without context by itself. Doesn't tell you a whole lot about the greater plot, but it kind of introduces you to the beginning of this show. And I am not going to actually play it for you guys in here because it's clear they didn't want it out there yet. And no, you're not late. I just started. I've got a lot to say about The Mandalorian. But ultimately, I'll summarize by saying I think it looks absolutely fantastic. So, with that said, there's a whole lot more to say, and so. But I'm not going to show any of the footage here in this live stream. But if you want to watch it, I'm sure you probably can find it. It's out there. You can search for the Mandalorian episodes sneak peek. You can search for a lot of those things, and you'll probably find it. But if you, most people that I've talked to have already seen it. So I just wanted to talk about it a little bit, and we'll certainly talk about some of the things that are going to happen. But it's coming to Disney Plus. It will be this year, and so there's a lot of things I wanted to talk about. I will try and take some questions also, and so I will probably prioritize super chat over regular questions. But whatever comes in, I will try to get to as many as I can. But so if you guys haven't already, the Mandalorian, the sizzle reel is out there. The sneak peek is out there, and that was, I don't know, how long was it? It was about 7 minutes. About 7 minutes worth of footage. They showed us a lot of really cool stuff, and I think one thing is for sure: Jon Favreau is a fan, a genuine fan of the series. Absolutely. So that much is very, very good. I am blown away that he's done such a good job, at least initially, based on how it looks at first. And one of the things that I have come to learn is that when a Star Wars show comes out, I'm not always a big fan right at the beginning. Star Wars Rebels, probably my favorite Star Wars show out of all of them, was great, but I wasn't hooked right away. Star Wars Resistance I didn't like right away, but by the end of season 1, it got a little better. I'm still not hooked yet. I probably won't ever be hooked because that's really a kid's show, but that's what it is. It wasn't trying to be anything that it wasn't. We knew all along we were getting a kid's show, so I have nothing bad to say about Star Wars Resistance, because it put itself out there as a kid's show. So I can't complain, and I'm glad that there are kids shows for Star Wars. I'm glad that people are getting into Star Wars for the same reason that the prequels got people into Star Wars that are now Star Wars fans. Like it would be less awesome to be in a fandom that was much, much smaller because after 1983 nobody got into Star Wars. So I'm glad that Star Wars has been kept alive, and one of the ways they do that is by bringing new people in. That's great. But here is an example with The Mandalorian. Here's an example of them catering to the older fan base. And not just fans of the original trilogy, but I think they're also catering to fans of the prequels as well, who are now older and able to watch stuff. I wasn't able to make the actual Mandalorian panel, but some friends who were, I've heard that they actually like talked to some families at the beginning who were like in the front row. There was a family with kids, and they like had to say like, just I just want you to know this isn't really necessarily going to be a kid friendly experience, and that's something. Now, that's not to say this is going to be straight up Game of Thrones. I mean, like with as far as like nudity and sex and things like that, I don't expect we're going to get nudity in The Mandalorian. I don't think it'll cross that bridge. I don't think it's necessary to cross that bridge. I think if there is a time that it becomes necessary, there'll probably be a way to do that without it being as gratuitous. But based on what we've seen, it seems like a show that is going to be in that ballpark of mature content, like a prime-time, serious, Game of Thrones-esque level show. And that should really excite you, because this is like Star Wars for grown-ups. For all of you who are watching that Rogue One was your favorite Star Wars because it was grittier and dirtier and more mature, The Mandalorian looks to continue that. And so that should be a beacon of hope to a lot of you fans. I know a lot of people are, I don't want to say a lot of people, but I know some people I've talked to just aren't as big of fans of the sequel trilogy. I think that's to be expected because it's something brand new. It's, you don't have any real connection to it, and they didn't deliberately try to make it a pure fan service. I think they're trying to bring in new people. So for those of you out there who aren't in love with the sequel trilogy, I think The Mandalorian is going to be something that's amazing for you. Yes. So let's talk a little bit about The Mandalorian, because I just think it's going to be one of the best things for Star Wars in a long time, and for the adult fans. And that's the funny thing is, as a father of three, did I hold up four fingers? No, this is not a bad omen, is it? Better not be a fourth. As a father of three, I don't know. As a father of three, I'm not sure I can have my kids watch this show. It'll be one of those things that I watch first, and then the wife and I kind of talk about, like, all right, they can watch this, or maybe this one can watch it, but this one can't, So that's that's kind of cool. It's kind of exciting, right? Like Rogue One was kind of the same way. Like everybody dies, so like, do you really want your kids watching it? And they did, but I talked to them about it first, and like I took my two oldest, my youngest didn't go see it. But, you had to talk about them first. Like, hey, just, I want you to know this is just a movie, and I don't want you to get too upset. Everybody's going to die. And now let's go watch the movie. But, so let's talk about The Mandalorian. So the first thing I want to talk about is the look and feel of it. It reminds me of two things. Early Star Wars. Like 1977, 1978. I feel like they're drawing a lot of inspiration off of. First off, the cantina scene from episode 4. Almost all of the aliens that you saw in there kind of get shown. So you're getting a lot of early Star Wars aliens represented, which is cool. Again, you were in the Outer Rim, and I was just playing Outer Rim today, and that kind of got me thinking. Kind of got me hyped up on Mandalorian stuff. So a lot of us were talking about the Mandalorian. Everybody's kind of really juiced about it. It looks like it's going to be great, and it's possible to like multiple things. Like you can like Resistance, and you can like the kids stuff. I'm looking forward to episode 9 very, very much. I'm also looking forward to this. You can like lots of things. There's something for everybody, and that's what's really great. So very much that early scene, but also Christmas special. A lot of the Christmas special homage. So if you've if you've seen the Christmas special, like. One of the first things people caught on to was that rifle with the tuning fork on the end, which is the same rifle that Boba Fett had in the Christmas special. So, and that's something Disney has done quite a bit of that I think is honestly really classy, is that they've pulled a lot of original concept designs and very, very old school vintage Star Wars, going from like with Rebels and then like pulling a lot of the Ralph McQuarrie art. And with the T-70 X-Wings, and pulling those from the original concept art from Star Wars, and there's a little bits of that in just about everything, and so I really enjoy, those throwbacks of how they're doing something new based on something older. It's just a really cool way. Like I feel like they're really doing their best to honor this fan base, in some ways, and of course, some people disagree about other things, but that's one thing I think that they're doing in this show is they're pulling a lot of stuff from the old school Star Wars to make this feel rugged, make it feel like a Western and a samurai movie, and give it that vibe that inspired Star Wars. So that much is cool. We're very gonna have a cowboy, samurai, honorable, code, feel to it. So like it's so let's talk. I want to talk a little bit about the footage that we've seen, and I will get to some questions. I'll try and take a few here before I jump into talking about the footage. So let's see. You just started watching my YouTube videos this year. You love where my heart is. Looking forward to many more. Thank you. I absolutely appreciate that. What era will the Mandalorian be in? It seems like it's post-Galactic Civil War, but only just a little after. Yeah, so I think they said it's a year after Return of the Jedi. I'm not sure if it's like how much. Is it 5 years after? Okay, well, somebody says 5 years after. I know they said it was not long after Return of the Jedi, and I wasn't sure if it was before or after the Battle of Jakku. It seems like it's after the Battle of Jakku. So, kind of definitely in a post-Empire world. But one of the things we see is, we're going to talk about that when we talk about the footage. Yes. But yeah, what is my favorite fish now? My favorite fish is a clownfish, because they can tell you a joke. All right, let's go ahead and do this. So it starts off like for our footage. We see one of the things I love is we see like a market, very much like a Mos Eisley kind of town. Although I don't think it's Mos Eisley. I don't even think it's on Tatooine. But we're getting like this kind of inner city Mos Eisley, Jeddah, that kind of feel. And our main character, Pedro Pascal, the Mandalorian, is kind of walking in. And he walks into a bar to go meet Carl Weathers, who's like this guild master. And as he's walking by, you see like the Kowakian monkey lizard roasting on a spit. Like they're selling roasted monkey lizard. And that's just, first off, fan service right there. But it fits. And so I think one thing that Star Wars has been reluctant to do, because they have so much EU, is they're reluctant to just do a fan service for the sake of doing a fan service. They're more likely wanting to do a fan service when it fits. And the thing is, that's one great thing about this backdrop, is because there's so many opportunities to make those things fit. There's a lot of opportunities for fan service and to make them feel like they belong. So the Kowakian monkey lizard roasting on a spit, and you have another one in a cage. It was so great for me because, dude, in our last Star Wars RPG campaign, my character bought a Kowakian monkey lizard from a street vendor. Just like that. It happened in my last RPG, in one of our last sessions, and we went to go meet a hut, and I gave him, we were on Tatooine, so we actually met Jabba, and I gifted him a Kowakian monkey lizard to try to get us out of a tight spot, and he loved it. And so we don't know if, the idea was this was taking place before Episode 4, and we were in between, or somewhere around the time of Solo, and for all I know, that was the one that he still had. He might have eaten that one and gotten another one. But the point was, I was like, that is awesome. I love seeing that, because that's straight out of the RPG for me. But I'm curious for all of you, I was a big fan of that. Plus, anybody who Salacious Crumb, maybe if he antagonized you as a child, seeing one roasting might have just been a little bit of payoff. Maybe that couldn't have been Salacious Crumb, because he was most likely destroyed in the sail barge in Return of the Jedi. So probably not actually Salacious Crumb in that scene. But that was one of those cool little things. So so he's meeting. He gets. There's not a whole lot of bounties. Carl Weathers' character seems to be like a guild master, and he's like, I can't give you all of these bounties. There's other people too, but they're not paying much. They're paying like 5,000 credits each. So he's like, there's one job, but it's face to face. It's dangerous. You sure you want it? And so that's and that seems to me like this could very well be the opening scene, like the very first thing we see in the show. And so that's cool, and I'm digging that. So let's see here. Let me get more comfortable. So, he takes this job and he's going to meet these people and you know, very similar to, and things are falling over. Oh my goodness, I've been setting up Black Series and been changing my layout behind me. And oh, by the way, you know, throwbacks. Got my dewback without the Sand Trooper now, because we're gonna have this dewback being rid by Mando, because why not? So anyway, so he goes and we have like the same security system that Jabba has in his palace. You know, the Guacablinky, you know, the little thing comes out. So like another fan service, but makes sense. So it's not like, you know, Jabba had the only version of security in the galaxy. So just makes sense. So he goes in and he meets, now we get introduced to Werner Herzog's character, who is like an ex-Imperial officer, and he also speaks a lot through the rest of the narration and everything, so that's cool. And so now they sit down to talk about a job, and as he walks in, you see a bunch of stormtroopers, and that's actually pretty telling, because we learn a little bit about the setting and the way the world is, the way the galaxy is. There's still remnants of the Empire. Kind of like in the EU, but kind of like you would just imagine in any of this stuff. You know, you're getting all of this, you know, stuff that you probably expected to be true, but it's a different thing to like see it. You know, and the stormtroopers are dirty. You know, they're not bright, shiny, clean stormtroopers anymore. They're like, all right, we haven't been able to return back to Coruscant to like get replacement, you know, plastoid armor or whatever. We're out here trying to, you know, without leadership, what do we do? You know, we're following this officer. So yeah. Somebody's asking about Force FX lightsabers. I got mine. I think I got all mine through Think Geek. I bought all of these at my Think Geek store. So yeah, actually all of them came from Think Geek, which is connected to GameStop. They're owned by the same parent company. But yeah, you can get them there, or you can get them on Amazon. Yeah. So, let's see. So then we get some stormtroopers coming out, and he sits down there, started talking normal bounty hunter lingo. I'm like, so yeah, he told me you're the best. You want this job? All right. Then another character walks in, kind of bumbling, and all of a sudden we've got this standoff, you know, and Pedro Pascal pulls out two weapons, and he's like, who's this guy and what are you guys doing? Because then all four stormtroopers raise their weapons, and you know, they've got him right in the center, and you know, and they're like, whoa, everybody calm down, you know, and like, tell them to lower their weapons first. And he's like, we've got you 4-1. And he goes, I like those odds. And it was awesome, because like the room lights up, or like at least in the crowd, everybody's just like, oh, this dude is hardcore. I like those odds. So already, like, just from a few minutes of this, we're learning that this dude is the real deal. This is written so well to really please the fans. Like, no old school Star Wars fan is gonna be watching this and saying, oh, this is terrible. This is great. It looks so good. So I'm sorry if I'm like gushing a little bit. I'm just really excited about this. You know, and it's great. It's super cool. So they kind of calm down. He kind of accepts this job, and this job seems like this is the beginning of the journey. So that's another reason why I think this is the very first thing we see. That like, hey, you can do this job. We have very little. I can only tell you a little part of the information. It's super secret, super secret, and so he takes the job after a little convincing, because, oh, what is this I've shown? Beskar. What is Beskar? Well, we had Beskar in our last RPG campaign too. It's funny. Small world. But yeah, Beskar is the material they use to make the Mandalorian armor, right? So this tells me a couple of things. This tells me that Beskar is very, very rare, which of course it is already, but the armor that he has is probably not Beskar. The armor that our character starts off with is probably a knockoff, or just regular armor, maybe designed to look like Mandalorian armor, but he can't actually forge real armor. So, you know, he's part of his journey. This tells us a little bit about the journey that Pedro Pascal's character is going to take in this, and that he's going to, like, basically they say, here's a down payment. It's a piece of armor the size of a credit card, but proof that he's got a stockpile. He's got more Beskar armor where that came from. So it's like, keep doing jobs for me. I'll pay you in armor, you know, and he'll be able to. And it's like, oh, wouldn't you like to see? It'd be good to see something return to the old ways, right? And a Mandalorian and real Beskar armor. Yeah, but that would feel good. So this guy knows how to work him. He knows how to tug at his heartstrings. So I have a feeling this Werner Herzog dude, whatever his character's name is, I'm sure he's a bad dude. Like he's gonna be complex, I'm sure, because he's gonna be in multiple episodes, no doubt about that. He's probably gonna be the main antagonist, or who knows. But you know, he knows how to work this guy. So I think that's gonna be one of the things. It would not surprise me if this leads to him maybe by the end of the first season, or maybe by the end of one season, forging a whole new set of armor, and then like he shows up in a new season with all new armor. My guess, based on the way that they have been doing fan service and taking characters back to the original, here's my guess. And this, I'm sorry if this spoils it for you, but my guess is this guy right here. I think our main character will eventually form a white suit of Mandalorian armor. Just like the original prototype of Boba Fett. Maybe not just like this, but I think it will be similar in some ways to this character right here. That's my prediction. It may take a long time to get to this point, but that would do two things. First off, they love going back to original concept art. They love doing that all the time. If he's forging a brand new set of armor, it being white and being pristine is actually kind of appropriate. Do you think that that's appropriate? Because that's what I think. I think that might be something that ends up happening. And then so he takes the job and walks out, and then we get some more footage. So I'll try and take a few questions here. But yes, and happy Easter. Happy Easter, you guys. But yes, it looks awesome so far, but so has every Star Wars trailer. That's a fair point. This, however, was not a trailer. This was actual footage, like 5 to 7 minutes of actual footage, of a middle of an episode. So this gave us something totally different, because this isn't a movie. This is a show, and so they're able to do a lot of things. Like some of the things that I didn't like about the sequel trilogy were the pacing. And I felt like if they had more time, certain things could have been explained better. Some things could have maybe worked out a little bit better, like Canto Bite, for example, in episode 8. Now, just in case you're new, or in case you haven't been following me for a long time, I loved episode 8. I was unsure about it initially. I still had some confusion walking out of the theater. After multiple viewings, I began to really appreciate it more and more. And at the same time, I acknowledge it's not a perfect movie. It's got its flaws. It's got several flaws, and I'm more than willing to talk about those, and the subject for another video. It's definitely not a perfect movie, but I don't exaggerate the flaws to the point where, Star Wars is dead. And most people I talk to don't do that either. Most normal people can sit down and just talk about, like, I didn't like the Canto Bite, I didn't like this, and I didn't like that, and this might have been better, and so on and so forth. And having a discussion like that is great, because that's what we do as fans. But overall, I think what episode 8 did well. I think it did very well. There are a lot of really great things about episode 8. So I like all of the Star Wars, the entire catalog, with the exception of Resistance. I'm only lukewarm on Resistance. I have a feeling it will get better. That being said, this looks really good. I think this is going to be amazingly good, and I think it's going to please a lot of people. I am sure there will be some folks out there that still criticize it, but at the same time, you've got to look at the facts. There's a lot of people out there that want to just troll. A lot of people really get off on just throwing a monkey wrench into a perfectly good system. Star Wars fandom is a great fandom. It's very welcoming. It's very inclusive. I just got back from Celebration. Everybody there was awesome. People are great. Star Wars fans are the best fans in the world. And people out there love to just to troll. Whether it's like playful trolling, like somebody showing up to a Star Wars convention in a Star Trek costume, or the serious trolling where somebody's like, making death threats against Lucasfilm employees and stuff like that. or anywhere in between. People just love to troll. Additionally, there's also, I think, a lot of people out there that want us all fighting with each other, that don't want the people themselves united. I won't go too far into that because I don't want this to turn into some kind of political talk. But I guess my point is a lot of the negative stuff out there, I don't really take it all very seriously. So the extreme negativity, it's toxic and it's not good for anybody. If you want to actually talk about this stuff, then you can talk about it. You have to make a point though. And I guess where I'm going with this is I'm sure there will still be toxic stuff said about this, same way there was toxic stuff said about Rogue One. Granted, Rogue One was a lot more of a crowd pleaser, especially to the old school fandom. And so it didn't really have as much toxic negativity. So, those trolls really look for an easier target. And Episode 8 was a very easy target because there were a lot of controversial plot points to Episode 8. So it made it very, very easy for somebody to take something that was not good and turn it in and make it out to be like this monumental evil. So overall, I'm sure there'll probably be some people who aren't pleased, or at least claim that they aren't pleased with The Mandalorian, and that's fine. But you've got to look at those type of critics and just kind of take them with a grain of salt. Like, are they making any valid points, or are they just saying, looks like crap? Well, if you don't have anything more to add, if you don't have anything of substance to add to the conversation, then why should I waste my time? But if somebody actually wants to talk about it, then you should totally talk with them if you're interested. And that's why I do a lot of this type of stuff. Because if you've got some legitimate criticisms, we can talk about them. And I haven't even seen anybody with many legitimate criticisms, although there was the one, looks good just like but all the trailers looked good. Sure, but I think a lot of those movies were good. I think Solo, which is my least favorite Star Wars movie, was a very good film. It was entertaining and it was done well, and I mean the special effects were great, and it had a little bit of humor, had a little bit of adventure. It's a really enjoyable movie to sit down and watch, and so by all accounts, it's a good movie. Didn't do well for a number of reasons. One reason was the timing, but I've enjoyed everything. I'm sure I will enjoy this. I think The Mandalorian's gonna be great. But also the other thing here is that this is show footage and not specifically it's not just a trailer. That they gave us like raw footage, and so that was pretty cool. But you get the vibe. This really does look like, to me, I think Game of Thrones, which coincidentally comes on tonight. So there we go. Do you want KOTOR 3? I want more Star Wars games, period. Knights of the Old Republic would be fine. I'm not as big of a fan of the Old Republic. I liked KOTOR 1 an awful lot. I don't think I ever completed KOTOR 2. It just came out at a time in my life that I was very busy, and I wasn't able to finish it, and never came back to it. But I played a little bit of the on the MMO Star Wars: The Old Republic, and I really enjoyed that. But I didn't get so far into the lore, because between Star Wars: The Old Republic and KOTOR, they took place at very different times. So it's not like the same characters were in all of them. There was very little crossover there, at least on the surface. So, Attack of the Clones is the worst Star Wars movie, worse than Solo. That's fair. I think there's, I can get on board with that. There are aspects to that I can agree with. But the thing that I liked, and I don't say Solo is the worst movie, it's just my least favorite. It was a very well made movie. I have a hard time with any backstory or any prequel knowing that the characters that I care about are safe. Like knowing that Han Solo, Chewbacca, and Lando are all safe. They all get out with all their limbs attached, and I know that exactly where they all end up. And I felt like I knew everything I needed to know already about Han and Chewie. Lando to a lesser extent, because he's a lot more mysterious. So if they made the Lando movie and Han Solo just happened to be in it, I probably would have liked it a lot better. In the case of Episode 2, you still had kind of that aspect because you knew how Obi-Wan and Vader ended up. But there was a lot more mystery involved with everything else. But I was not as crazy about the love story aspect of Episode 2. There were some some bad writing, and there's some other things in there that weren't that great. But I will also admit that as I come back to the prequels now as a tabletop gamer, as a war gamer, I feel like the prequels had so many other good things going for them that I overlooked at the time because I was looking at them from a different point of view. So I can look at them now and say, boy, these movies really inspired a whole lot of great wargaming, like the Battle of Camino was in episode 2. Geonosis, I'm sorry. Well, Camino was there also, but the Battle of Geonosis was in episode 2, and that was actually gave us an awful lot of stuff that contributed to a lot of tabletop games that we have now, like Star Wars Legion can definitely draw upon that. It's contributed to a lot of video games, and so there's a lot of cool things going for it. And at the time, episode 2 also was the first time we saw Yoda with a lightsaber, so I really enjoyed that at the time as well. They both had things going. They both had pros and cons. Where can you buy a Force FX lightsaber in Europe? I don't know. I would go to Google. Or a search engine or something. I would just try to buy it online and see if they'll ship it to you. Try Amazon. I don't know if they have an equivalent to Amazon in Europe, but that's what I would do. All right, let me get back to, so we have some more footage I want to talk about with the Mandalorian, and then we'll just kind of, I think after that we'll probably just take it into general Q&A. So we see a couple other things after, like he takes the bounty and walks out with the promise of maybe getting new Beskar armor. So like that opening seems to set up everything, but then we get a little bit of other stuff. We see more Imperial stuff. We see like a Purge Trooper or Flame Trooper coming out. We saw Gina Carano fighting with Pedro Pascal, and they're going back and forth, so that looks really cool. I still don't know if she's going to be his friend or a nemesis, or maybe a nemesis and then a friend. It's kind of my guess. I would guess they fight and eventually, earn each other's respect. We see the ship. Now, the ship to me is similar to the Mist Hunter. It's not the Mist Hunter, but like it seems like it's, maybe from the same company that designed, the Mist Hunter that Zuckuss and Forlom fly. Just kind of reminds me of the design scheme for that one a little bit, or a cross between that and like that Wookiee ship that they have. So that's kind of cool. We do see like a really close replica to like the Episode 4 Cantina, the Mos Eisley Cantina, which I'm sure it maybe just be a standard layout, or maybe they do go to Mos Eisley and actually go in that same cantina. We get IG-88. We got to stop and talk about IG-88. How awesome was it to come out there and see IG-88 like walking out into the town, just lighting people up, just going on a killing spree, which also begs the question, is that even IG-88? Is that even IG-88? Like, is it one of the, like, IG-88A, B, C, D? Like, that was all in Legends, right? How much of IG-88's story of cloning himself makes it into canon? That's actually, I'm really interested in that. This is, what, maybe we'll find out that some of his code did make it into the second Death Star, and he was about to take over the whole galaxy, et cetera, et cetera. So that's cool. We do see the Dewback again. Dewback. but yeah, also Werner Herzog's character is kind of narrating all of this, because this second half is more like a trailer, and we see a lot of different stuff. But during the whole time, it's a lot of violence. We're seeing a lot of fighting, and he's talking about the Empire is definitely still alive. And he talks about, like, there's one line that jumped out at me. He's like, is the world more peaceful after the revolution? And so he's like making a case for the Empire. And it's like, look, there was these rebels, they just, they took over, but they're in the core worlds. We're here in the Outer Rim. The Empire, say what you will. And I think he's making this case, like, say what you will about the Empire, but at least we had order. We had some resemblance of order. Now out here in the Outer Rim, or maybe mid-rim. I'm assuming they're going to be in the Outer Rim. They could at least send Star Destroyers out here, or at least Gazantes. And we do see a TIE fighter, so there's still garrisons, but they're probably all loose and unorganized and not under the same chain of command. So, it's I think they're going to make a good argument for the Empire. We will probably see Hero Empire characters. We'll probably see good guys that work for the Empire or the remnants of the Empire. You know, I'm sure we'll see that. There's going to be a lot of potential. There's so much potential, and that really is kind of where it leaves me. So once this is over, you know, of course, the crowd gives a thunderous applause. And you can find it if you Google it. Again, I'm not showing the footage. I don't want to get a strike on my account. I don't, you know, Disney hasn't officially released it yet, so I'm just talking about it rather than actually, you know, rebroadcasting it. So, what was my question? I have questions for you guys. Since this is kind of a Q&A, I'm going to throw you guys a couple of questions. Like, I want to know what your favorite parts were. I want to know, like, what you're hoping to see versus also what you're expecting to see. They have said that, like, Disney Plus is going to be like $7 a month at launch. So, like, definitely get this. I mean, you know, Disney Plus just seems like it's an automatic buy. Like, I wouldn't care if they charged $50 a month. I would pay it. That's just me, because, like, I've got to have this stuff, you know. Granted, if it was $50 a month, I might not get the first. I might, like, wait a few months and then, like, all right, $50 for this month and then binge everything. But still, you know, with $7 a month, I mean, they could have charged more than that. They're really trying to get you to get this. And this isn't the only program they're going to have either. So there's other things. Resistance. Again, Clone Wars is going to be on there. The new season of Clone Wars is going to be on there. There's going to be stuff for adults, so stuff for kids, plus all the other stuff they've got, all the Marvel stuff, all of the Fox programming, all the regular Disney stuff too. It's something for everybody. But this is, I think, that one of their they're going to be their flagship, their launch show. So yeah, and also we can kind of speculate on, based on the timeline, what other things can they do in this timeline. If they're going 5 years after Return of the Jedi, I'll start us off with like some scenarios. There's a lot of things that they can show us. They can show us a lot of ships that were like, we might see an Imperial Raider, right? I would love to see some stuff like that on actual, that's not CGI. They could show us, we could see characters, like there's certain cameos we could see. Like we could see Lando. We could see Lando Calrissian. Obviously, it wouldn't be Billy D, but we could see Lando Calrissian. Since, you know, we could even see, I guess we could probably see Han Solo also. If you got your actors from Solo, a Star Wars story, we could definitely see Chewbacca. We could definitely do that. So that we can do that. We can see a lot of characters from the Galactic Civil War. I don't think we'll see a lot of stuff from the sequel trilogy. Like, I think it's too early for them to start talking about like the First Order. I don't think it'll delve into that very much. It's possible it could eventually talk about the Chiss and the Thrawn stuff, but I don't think they'll want to really go that way. Unless, I think the closest we'll get to stuff like that is if they just want to, like, if there's like a chain link. They may like be like, oh, well, here is our friend John Smith, and then once they eventually go back and do Thrawn stuff, maybe John Smith will be like a tie-in, just showing that the galaxy's all connected. We could potentially get things like that. All right. So I'll try and take a few questions, and we'll kind of go back and forth here. Geonosis was good, except for C-3PO swapping heads with a battle droid. That was a little silly, I admit. There was, you know, absolutely. DVD release. I don't know if they will release it on DVD, but Disney has released everything else on DVD. I mean, you can get all of Star Wars Rebels on DVD. I'm sure they would do that. I'm sure we could, but DVD releases are expensive. You know, you can just spend $7 for 1 month and then purge the entire series versus spending like $40 per season. So yeah, you can, you know, I think they'll definitely do a DVD release. You should have a RIM campaign, but document it like a cinematic and commentate on each fleet movement and battle like an Imperial or Rebel commander. You mean RIM? When you say RIM campaign, I think you mean Rebellion in the Rim for Star Wars Armada. That is a possibility. That's something I might do. Let's see. All right. Let's see. Well, and happy Easter to anybody who's joining us. But yes, so all right. Let's see. You thought the footage looked fantastic. I agree. I think think it looked pretty good. It's an understatement. No, obviously I'm sitting here talking all about it. What is your hype level for the Cassian Andor show? We know his ultimate fate, right? My hype level for the Cassian Andor show is moderately low, and that's exactly that, because we know where he ends up. So you're gonna have a whole show like I'm not drawing conclusions yet. I don't know what I'm gonna think about this show because I don't know how the show is going to be filmed. I don't know, there's a whole lot I don't know about the show, and I intellectually I know that a show like that is going to be about the journey, not about the destination. But me personally, I care so much about the destination that kind of lowers my enjoyment of a show like that. So what I will say is, while I'm hoping that a Cassian Andor show isn't only about Cassian Andor. Like, I hope, like, as it starts being made, like, I'll take Game of Thrones, for example. Game of Thrones is what really, I've talked about it a couple of times. Great show. But it's kind of ruined me because, like, oh, I think this person's the main character. Oh, wait, they're dead in the first season. Oh, I think this person now is the main character. Oh, no, they're dead. Okay, I think this person's the main character. Oh, they're dead. Like, I kind of hope they do something like that with the Cassian Andor show. Like, I hope they introduce enough other characters and have episodes that focus on other characters. Like, I would be fine if they just used Cassian Andor in the first season and then branched off of him and had you latch on more to other characters to where he wasn't this focal point of the show. If he's not the only character, my problem is if he's the only character I care about, then I'm not going to enjoy the show as much. That was my problem with Solo, a Star Wars story. The other characters in the movie might have been fine, but I didn't have enough time to get to, I didn't care about Kira. I didn't care about Woody Harrelson. I didn't care about Val. I just didn't get to know them and didn't have time to care about them. So, maybe a series can do that because they have more time. So, I mean, I'm of course I would watch it. And the time period is also really cool because there's a lot of really cool stuff they can show and do. So that sounds great. I just hope it's not all about Cassian's going to get caught by the Empire. Will he be able to break out of jail? Of course he'll be able to break out of jail because he's in Rogue One. You can't have, you have to find a different mold. So, yeah. So that's what my hype is for Cassian. It's IG-11. Dave Filoni confirmed that. IG-11. Okay, so it's still IG-88. Still IG-88. Let's see here. All right, I'll take a few more questions, and then I'm going to probably close it down pretty good. How was Celebration? Celebration was busy. It was crazy busy. I was working most of the time, though. I was teaching, demoing games, Outer Rim, Armada, Legion. Just a lot of teaching, a lot of talking. Lost my voice for about 5 or 6 days afterwards. It's finally, I think, back now. It hasn't gone out on me yet. But there was a lot of ups and downs. I was exhausted, and I was kind of feeling under the weather almost the whole time I was there. And one problem was I don't think I hydrated enough. It was so much more dry in Chicago than I was expecting, so I was not physically comfortable the whole time I was there. That being said, a lot of really awesome stuff. Got a lot of cool merchandise. Got my Legion Vader. Have you guys seen it? I still have a little more painting work to do, but he's I finally put him together. So there's the Legion Vader. This was one of the main reasons I wanted to go. That's gonna sound silly, but this was my number one thing for going to Celebration was to get this guy, and that's one. And there's gonna be a whole video coming out about this because there's so much drama about these things. It's crazy, but it's a really cool miniature. And getting Outer Rim was a really pleasant surprise. I was kind of blown away by that. So I'm very happy that they had at least a few copies. Once Disney has us hooked, they'll start to raise the price. I have no doubts of that. But considering I was already expecting $20 a month, I was expecting between 15 and 20. When they raise the price up from 7, I don't think they'll jump straight from 7 to 20. I think they'll probably jump from 7 to 12, and then from 12 to 17, and then from 17 to 19. Oh, over the next couple of years, which is fine. That's what I am expecting to pay. So I don't mind if they raise the price. Because 7 is too low of a value. It's not sustainable, especially considering the money that they've already spent. Yeah. But some of you are more excited about the journey than the destination. Oh, well, of course. I think that's the more popular opinion. I like my opinion is just my own, and so and I try to recognize that there's lots of points of view, and it's definitely likely that I will still enjoy the journey despite already knowing the destination. But my problem is that is always the case. They're always doing that. Like, that's why I'm so excited about episode 9. Like, some people are kind of on the fence about episode 9 and aren't willing to be like, oh, I really am excited about this because they don't know if they're going to like it or not. Like, I don't even care. The movie can completely suck. I'm still going to be thrilled because I don't know what's going to happen. Finn could die in the first scene. Finn, Poe, Rey, everybody could die in the first scene, and maybe it's just C-3PO saves the day. I know that's not going to happen, but the thing is, I don't know that that's not going to happen. So if somebody's in danger, I actually care, and that's a big deal. And it's not just that people have to die, but it means that there are stakes. And here's the reason. It's like when you watched Star Wars, like if Star Wars came out today, assuming we didn't have anything like that, and assuming it was made with up to speed, if this story came out today, you'd be watching it, and you might have actually been surprised when they blew up Princess Leia's home planet of Alderaan. Like, holy crap, we just lost an entire world. Not only was it an entire planet that is now gone, but it was also an important planet. It was a peaceful planet. It was a royal planet, and that's a big deal, losing a whole planet, right? In episode 7, we lost an entire system, the whole system, multiple planets. So, here's a show that has big stakes. There's always been really big stakes. You could also argue Anakin turning to episode 3 was all about huge stakes. Like the prequels, if you didn't know what was going to happen, you're like, wow, there's a lot of really big stuff. We had a whole war, and then the war was over. Now we don't have a republic anymore. Democracy's dead. Now we have an empire. Oh, the Jedi, the entire order is now Order 66 happened. All of Star Wars is about these huge galactic scale stakes of anything can happen, so everything is really important because the whole galaxy could get turned upside down. And that's why I think the stakes are very important. And so episode 9 is gonna I don't know, here's the realistic big stakes for episode 9. I don't know if we're gonna see a redeemed Ben Solo, or if Kylo Ren will die, or if he will live. Nobody knows. And that's actually something we're all really curious about. Not just if it happens, but also it has to happen well, right? That was another problem that they painted themselves into a corner in episode 3 is Anakin had to turn to the dark side, but they ran out of time. So it's just he's a bad guy. Let's go get him. Oh, on second thought, I'll kill you and I'll serve him. It happened way too quick. It's just went from good guy to bad guy. Oh, we only got 5 minutes left? Okay, let's wrap this up. I'm evil. That's my biggest criticism of maybe all the prequels right there, is that most crucial part of the entire prequel trilogy was done in a split second when it should have been given at least, it should have been given an hour. I was at least 20 more minutes. Give it some, that's my, so but this whole Star Wars is all about big galactic scale stakes, and since they're always telling backstories and jumping all over the place in the timeline, there's so few opportunities to have really big stakes. If they do the Cassian Andor show and it takes place on Coruscant, nobody's going to blow up that planet. And on a normal show that might not be a concern, but in Star Wars that's actually a concern. So that's why I have a lower hype level there. At least with things in the Outer Rim, you're so far away from what was going on in the, you know, in the movies that you can have stakes. You can lose a planet. You can have an entire fulcrum shift in the geopolitical structure of, you know, this section of the Outer Rim. You know, you can change a whole lot of things, and you have a lot more freedom to threaten those changes. And then when your hero saves the day, it actually means something. It wasn't pre-written. So, yeah. All right, so I guess that's about all I got for you guys today. I'm going to wrap things up here. So I do want to thank you all so much for watching. Stick with me this week. I've got a couple more things to talk about this week from the remainder of the news from Celebration, and there is a lot. I still haven't talked about X-Wing's epic news yet. There's a lot to talk about that. Got to talk more about Armada Clone Wars. I've got to talk more about... there's more Black Series reviews coming. There's I'm going to talk a little bit more about this controversy with the Black Series Vader, because that whole thing is kind of a tragedy. Not Black Series Vader, but the Legion Vader. And that's going to be it, guys. So I want to thank you all so much for watching. And, you know, if you're watching this after the fact, let me know in the comments what you think about The Mandalorian, because I think it looks really, really exciting. All right, guys, I want to thank you all so much for watching. And as always, have a great day. See ya.